This episode is brought to you by yours truly, the realtor Matt Norn of Remax Bell Park Realty. For all of your real estate needs, call me at 860-428-6534. Your dreams are my job. Calling all local businesses, the Community Workbench wants to do business with you. When you look at your advertising budget this year, please consider a commercial on the Community Workbench podcast. You or I can do a read with a slide, and it can be played at the beginning and or at the end of every episode. Please feel free to reach out to us at the bench to check out our rates and ideas. Call me at 860-428-6534 or email us at communityworkbenchpodcast@gmail.com. Welcome to the Community Workbench. This is Matt Norn and Kyle Morrissey. We are your hosts of the #1 podcast in my basement. At the bench, we interview small business entrepreneurs, community leaders, charities, and pretty much whoever we feel like talking to. And now for our honored guests, Stephen Lending's own Steve Gagnon and Kaila Curran. Hi, Steve. Hi, Kaila.
How are you, gentlemen?
Good. I'm good. So, welcome. This has been a long time coming. we've had you guys on twice before, and
this is the third.
Third time's a charm. The reason why we had them on before was I used to pre-record episodes, and then our plan was to edit and follow the conversation through editing on 5 different cameras, which is just an excruciating amount of time to do. So we stopped doing that, just kind of abandoned all those old episodes, and we've now just go live on Facebook. So anyway, welcome again. Steve, why don't you talk to us about how you got into the whole mortgage industry?
Well, the mortgage industry was something that came to me. I was the general manager of a car dealership, and I was recruited to run a branch in Hartford, Connecticut many years ago, and something I had no knowledge of, no previous experience, no anything. I guess what had happened was they had a branch they started, and it had been open for several months, and it was losing $5,000 to $6,000 to $7,000 a month. They didn't know what to do, so they contacted me, and that's where I started. Fortunately for me, I've been in sales my whole life, so it wasn't that difficult. I mean, if I didn't know the answer to something, I found out. But long and short of it is, it took 1 month to turn it around. And, after that, we ended up being between 5th and 6th branch in the country out of, I think at the time there was 147 branches. So I started there, and I really enjoyed it. It's like a daily puzzle. Everybody's loan is different, and to me, that's intriguing. I just like the thought of trying to figure out something to help someone out, and it was great fun, and it was a great learning experience.
Nice. Now, also, just so everybody else knows, Steve and his family was born and raised in Northeast Connecticut, correct?
Oh yeah. I grew up right in Brooklyn, Connecticut, actually on Day Street, and the Gagnon family was
well
notorious. We played every sport. We it was just the house that everybody went to was the Gagnon house. On any given weekend, there were probably 20 people in the house, and that's just the way it was back then.
Yeah.
And so we've been around in this area for years and years.
Gotcha. And then that was you started with the cars, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
my family owned the Chevrolet dealership in Brooklyn for years.
Okay.
At the time it was called Markley Motors, and my mother was a Markley, so once I got done with college, I went to work for the dealership, and I was pretty much everything at one time or another. I did financing, I did sales, I did the shop. I was the service manager for a while, so I got a flavor of a little bit of everything. And the plan was at some point to take that over, but honestly, the money that they offered me in Hartford was just almost impossible to say no to. So I ended up there, and I ended up there until my kids were old enough where I really wanted to see them play soccer or baseball or whatever. So I headed back this way.
Yeah. And that's when you opened up shop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was basically 2 locations in Brooklyn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Started.
Yeah, I started over on South Street. My one of my uncles owned what was called the O'Connor Vending Company, and he had retired and since shut it down. And I was looking for a place, and he called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, look, instead of paying rent, why don't you use the offices we have? I won't charge you a penny. Just keep them clean, and at least I know someone's there." So for the first couple of years, I went to work in an office, and every day went home and smelled like Almond Joy because it was a vending company. The place still smelled like candy. It was just, but at the time, free was great.
Right.
Yeah. Got you going.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you used to run the Springtime Festival?
Years ago. Yeah, I was the president of the festival for 2 or 3 years. It's been a while now, but
I was going to say, I remember the stories you tell me, because you used to run the race, right?
Yeah. I ran competitively for, probably 30 years.
Wow.
And I ran in school and all of that. And so, we used to run the Springtime Festival race every year. And after a while, actually, I was president when I was still in my 20s.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a little overwhelming.
I bet.
Yeah.
Early on.
And we took it from maybe 5 or 6 events. I think by the time I left, I think we had 20.
Okay.
Wow.
And it was anything you could possibly think of, from road races to, we actually had a competitive chess match here with the Canadian national champion and 5 grandmasters from the Boston area were actually in Brooklyn playing chess.
Cool.
Yeah.
That is cool.
It was cool.
So, after being on South Street, you land over at 412 Providence Road, Brooklyn, Connecticut, and that's where you are to this day.
Where we are currently, right in the same parking lot as Hank's Restaurant, in front of, I guess, Walmart now is the big landmark behind us. But, we've been there for, I think 8, 9 years now.
At least, because you've been there my whole career, and I think I'm in my 8th year of real estate. So.
Yeah. It was just an ideal place. I used to drive by it all the time, and it was empty. And I just approached the owners of Hank's, Roland and Lynn. I'm sure you all know them.
Oh, yeah.
I just told them one day, I said, look, that's a great building. Why leave it empty? I'll be glad to do all the work. Let me upstairs. I'll take the whole upstairs and, charge me whatever you think is necessary for rent because, the traffic on Route 6.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably 40 to 50,000 cars a day.
Right.
So how can you pass that up? And, so they made a deal with me, and I ended up in there.
Nice. And Kaila.
That's me.
The trusty sidekick tonight. How did you get into the whole mortgage business? If you want to even give us background even further back, that's fine too.
Well, I started off my career, I guess you could say, in radio advertising.
Wow.
And then went from there into life insurance. And then throughout all of my years, I've been a bartender. This is actually the first year that I have not done that.
Wow.
So I've got them people skills. But yes, I owned a business for a little while in Thompson, coming out of COVID, and it led me here. Quite honestly, I was on the radio on Winnie, and the timing was perfect. Steve actually heard the interview, and his son was the one to point me in this direction. Sat down with Steve, and it sounded like such an amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
No matter what I've ever done in my life, the ability to help people has to be there. There has to be some sort of It has to be in there.
Yep.
So I took the courses, passed on the first try, which is actually quite shocking.
It's rare.
Yeah, 55% passing rate. So I get to go to Detroit once a quarter and do some follow-up training too. I love to take advantage of all of the opportunities to really submerge myself in the education part of it. So yeah, I've been doing this almost 2 years now, and I'm in love with it.
Nice.
I love to talk to people, hear their story, and kind of match them up.
Yeah.
I'm a natural networker.
Yeah, I will say as a testimonial, I'm obviously a realtor, and I been utilizing Stevens Lending my whole career, and I love referring you guys. And when Kaila came on board, I was like, let's give it a try. And we had a pretty tough deal with the way we had to sell a house with our clients and buy an old house that had all its quirks and whatnot. And through all of that, it was definitely quite the transition, but Kaila handled it very well, like a seasoned professional. So
Thank you.
It was a great experience, and keeps me going back to Stevens Lending for sure.
Yeah, we love those referrals.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about the education process of like becoming a mortgage originator?
Absolutely. So it all started when I bought my first house. I didn't have a clue, and that was 12, 13 years ago now. I still look back on that day, and I don't know how or what happened. It went by so quickly, and at the end of it, I didn't know anything about my mortgage. So when this came up, I just wanted to learn as much as possible to pass on that information to. So I love working with first-time home buyers especially. So as I was educating myself, I made a lot of notes, and like I did.
Cards.
He laughs because flashcards. I had a stack of over 500 flashcards.
Is what it
that
is.
My kids
Yeah.
and I, on the way to school every morning, they would go over with me. That's honestly how I passed. But being able to pass on that information in a way that's going to help them understand their mortgage and in the long run save them a ton of money and stress, really.
Yeah, I got to say, it's been pretty eye-opening as to how different people run their personal finances, how they run, or just their knowledge, whether it's, you kind of get two people. There's the person that knows more about it than the professional because they've educated the crap out of themselves. And then you have the people that just say, I pay where it says to pay on the dotted line.
Yeah, I actually had one guy. He's one of my favorites. I'm not going to lie. He would text me almost every morning at 5:30. When normally all of my clients out there, it's usually 8 to 8. Call me anytime, 7 days a week. But this guy, I would wake up every morning and he would have a new question, and it was very motivating to see just how much he wanted to absorb all of this, and it helped me tremendously.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead, ask the questions. That's how I learn too, and every single mortgage is different. Just like Steve said, every situation is completely different. Every person is different. So you have to take that approach too. So, yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then you do really have some people where it's sign on the dotted line. You hear from them maybe 4 times. They have their documents ready to go from that first email. But yeah, I really do like the tricky ones. I'm not gonna lie.
So that was a home buyer that messaged you at 5:30 every morning?
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
For how long did that go on?
We closed him pretty quick, and he was really motivated to buy. So it was about a month and a half from the time he applied till the time he moved home.
Nice.
And yeah, it's neat. Sometimes he'll still send me messages because he's updating the entire house right now, and I get to see how the property's transitioning too.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, it's always great to meet people and just see them be successful, through the whole thing. And yeah, and the process can be super complex as far as from the first phone call all the way to closing. It gets wild, and to have a professional like yourself, like Steve, there for asking questions at any point. You guys keep your phones on all the time. It's, you're very accessible, which is just huge today, with services. Yeah. And so that's great. Do you guys get that crazy question all the time? What are the rates? What are the rates?
Want me to take
Go ahead, ask it.
All right. That's probably the question that puts most people in trouble.
Okay.
Let me just explain. Is that when somebody gets online or they call you, or even a realtor calls and says, well, what are your rates today? Well, okay, well, the customer, what is their credit score? What is their loan to value? What is their debt ratio? How long have they been where they're at now? All these things contribute to a rate. Plus, we have 7 lenders. Every one of them changes their rates 2 to 3 times a day. So we have between 15 and 21 rate changes every single day.
Wow.
And when, what is the market doing today?
Right.
So Friday's rate and Tuesday's rate are going to be something totally different. I mean, it's not going to be a huge swing. It won't be, like a full point or anything, but it changes. And rates are not always exactly rate, it's cost. How much does, 7.5 today might be par, which means that you don't get anything and you don't pay anything. That's just par rate. Monday, it might cost you $1,000 to get 7.5, depending on what the market's doing. Or if the market slips and the 10-year bond drops, you might be getting back $500 towards closing costs. So every single day they change. And the best answer, especially to the customer, is simply this. Look, you're going to get the very best rate from us that you qualify for. And the day that we lock the rate, we're going to call you up, tell you, today's the day. Here's what we have available. And there are probably 10 choices. And we'll send them over. And each one of them has the rates and what the cost or credit is. And I'll just give you an example. A week ago, we had a customer close. They didn't have quite enough money to put down, so they picked a higher rate. Not a lot higher, but a little bit higher, and it paid them $1,000. Well, they used that in the deal. It kept their deal together, and we're all set. 2 or 3 weeks before that, I had a gentleman buying a $500,000 home. It was an investment. He wanted a better rate because he doesn't want to jump in and change and refi and do all these different things. We had to do a bank statement loan for him because he owned so many properties. I sent him the rates and he called me back and said, hey, I'd rather pay the $12,000 extra and get 5.9 instead of 7.2. It's okay. So the point of it is everybody's different and everybody's circumstance is different. So the question about what's my rate? Okay, now it sounds a little
right, and you can basically customize it to each individual person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whoever's buying.
Mm-hmm.
It's different all the time, and it's something that is emphasized in the market, but it's not necessarily the most important thing as far as what product you get into and making sure that product is going to serve you over the...
Right.
I mean, most of them are 30-year term,
Most of 30-year term. And the other thing is, another question you have to ask a buyer is, how long you plan on staying there?
Right.
If you're going to stay there for 2 or 3 years and you're going to change jobs, you're going to move somewhere else, well, take a rate where it doesn't cost you a lot of money because, the interest that you're going to pay over the course of 30 years is not a problem. Is this going to be your forever home? Well, I hope so. I'm going to be here for as long as I possibly can. Well, then let's talk about, what rate serves you best at that point.
Right.
So there's always different things. And I've got to say, Matt, and I don't want to give you a big head here, but one of the things that you do very well is when we get customers in from Matt, and they never come to us with, Matt said the rates are this today, because he's smart enough to understand that we have this huge volume that we can present to them. And if you tell them, oh, I think your rate's 6.5, well, guess what? from day one, hour one, that's stuck in their head.
Right.
And at the end, if they look at the rates and they see that probably 7.1 may serve them better, well, they're going to say, well, geez, I thought it was 6.5. Why do I have to take this rate?
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to, but today that's what it is, and that's what the costs are, and so it's a whole different ballgame.
Right. And I also want to talk about how you guys basically, you have 7 kind of like wholesalers as far as lenders.
Right.
And so talk to me about like that process, like what makes one lender better than the other, and how that works.
Okay, well, lenders are different in that they have some specialties a lot of times. Our main lender is United Wholesale Mortgage, and we use them a lot because, frankly, their speed is unmatched. We had a loan. The funny thing is, before I came here today, I looked at an old interview I did in 2018, and I was talking about a loan that we did. We submitted it and cleared to close it in 2 days. And they can do that. It's one of those things where we went online and they had a lot of money down, so we didn't need to get an appraisal. We got a waiver. They had all the documents, bing, bang, boom, done. No one else can do that. But on the other hand, do we need a manually underwritten FHA loan because they're not getting an approved eligible, which simply means that DU and LP, which is Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. We have to run those through their automated systems, and in order to move ahead with a regular loan, it has to be approved eligible. Sometimes you just can't get it done. Sometimes it's refer eligible, which means not terrible, but not great, and you have to find a lender who will do a manual underwrite. In other words, doesn't go through that system.
Right.
And we have 2 or 3 of those, and then we have several commercial lenders, and then we've got DSCR lenders, which is a whole other thing we won't get into right now, but that's basically what it boils down to. We try to match the customer to the lender that will give them their best opportunity.
Right. It's not one lender, one rate, one product for everybody.
Never is.
Yeah.
Never is.
You guys can basically go shopping for your clients.
Exactly.
The thing that I've seen the most too with all the lenders that we've worked with is their account executives are so unbelievably consistent. I have all of their cell phone numbers. They'll answer just as often as we do, which is really neat, especially for our commercial lenders who we can call and get them on the phone with the account executive, and he'll run them through scenarios and more realistic approach to what they're trying to do. Because some people are, just starting out as investors, and so they're looking for more direction. So that's the consistency in it all has played a huge role in me coming up too, which is great.
Yeah, definitely with the running different scenarios. I've had investors where they'll call me up and be like, "Well, what if I put this much down? And what if we do this or this?" And it gets wild, and so I basically have to call you guys and be like, "Well, we're thinking about this now instead." So yeah, having that in your tool belt for running the different scenarios and giving people the real world scenario where you're gonna this is what you would end up paying at the end of the day, or the end of 30 days, or 30 years rather, or I mean, commercial loans are mostly 10-year, right, with a balloon payment, or is that still a thing?
It depends. I mean, they have 3-year, they've got 10-year. Yeah.
Wow. So a lot of options.
Again, it's all based on the person and what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I mean, it changes so often too, so it is really, really important to have someone on your side like that too, because at the end of the day, we don't know every answer. So sometimes you're going to hear, "I don't know, I'm going to get back to you."
Right.
But I'd much rather hear that from someone who's handling this amount of money
right. Yeah.
than let me make up the answer and try to make it work.
Yeah. And I've always wanted to also try and tell everyone that, it's like a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm going to buy a house in a year or 2 years," and I'll always ask them, "Well, what makes next year or 2 years down the road better than right now?" And that might have sounded pushy, but the reason why I do that is because we've had clients that think that their credit isn't good enough, or they think that the job, they need more raises before they get to that point, or whatever the case may be. But like to, basically call Steve or Kaila and say, hey, this is what I want to do. Getting that target date scenario from Steve or Kaila is going to be a lot better than someone who, doesn't necessarily know the market as well. So like we had a veteran a few years back who didn't have the best credit score. Yes. And I said, well, why don't you just call Steve and he'll let you know like what to pay down first, what to do, and how to, and it's a lot easier when you talk to a professional that works with budgets every day, works with numbers every day, and then they can teach you like how to build your credit and whatnot. Turned out it was like a month later we were closing on a house, and it made all the difference because he was paying a ridiculous amount on rent at the time as well. So if he kept going like that for another year, he may not have gotten ahead.
Oh, absolutely.
He definitely wouldn't have gotten ahead in equity, but he the idea of overpaying for rent, and no offense to landlords, but some of them are just like huge, heavy heating bills or heavy electric bills, or you know what I mean? It's tough to save money sometimes in certain rental units.
Well, especially today.
Yeah, they're there to make money. That's
right.
That's why it's an investment property.
Right.
But we can turn around and make you an investor.
Yeah.
And now you can have a tenant.
Right.
So
yeah. So I was saying that mainly to say that even if you're thinking about buying a house and you don't think you're ready, it's still good to call Steve, Kaila, or myself and really figure out a real target date as to when you can meet your goal.
Well, target date and a plan.
Right.
And sometimes they wait 2 years and they get there and they call us and we say, well, you probably should have been looking at this 2 years ago. And it's brilliant that you send people to us right away.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times we've had that discussion.
Yeah. And how many times we've capitalized for them. And then, now they're a happy homeowner.
Exactly. Like you said, it sounds pushy, but once they're in, it's like we are the best thing that ever happened to them because we guided them in a way that got them into a home they probably were a little reluctant to try to go for because they didn't think that maybe they didn't qualify. Yeah. That's usually, that's most of the time what people are concerned with.
Right.
People will come up and they'll do their research and they'll tell me all these facts and figures and things that they've learned, and all I have to say to them at the end of the conversation is say, look, I got you. Don't worry, we'll take good care of you.
Right.
And suddenly it's a whole different conversation. They just want to be sure that they're good to go.
Right. So, yeah, I can't encourage more of, calling somebody and getting that education and getting a plan together and moving forward on it.
Well, it's going to set them apart too when it is go time.
Right.
They're going to be fully prepared, and they're going to be a better candidate too for that house because let's be realistic.
Right.
There are multiple offers going in on houses.
Oh yeah.
And you want to be the best candidate.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely the case. Even, say what you want about the market, but we just here in especially Northeast Connecticut, we do not have a lot of inventory as far as we have a lot of buyers that want to buy a house. It's like I don't have a house to show you sometimes, and it's been hard in that respect, and that's what keeps prices up is just the low inventory. Through COVID, we moved a lot of people from Mass and Rhode Island and New York into the state, and kind of got a little overpopulated. So, as things move forward, though, I mean, we have more builders building as fast as they can and whatnot. The price of building materials has come down.
Thank God.
Finally, and so that helps the market, to keep going. Kaila, I noticed you hooked up your laptop. I'm not a tech guy. Do you want to bring us through your...
I'm not a tech guy either. Yes, I'd be happy to. So this is our landing page. Minus the cute little language options lettering in the right-hand corner with the arrow. But I just wanted to show everyone just a little tutorial, basically. So when you get to our website, stevenslending.net, there are a few things that you can do here. So down in the right-hand corner, there are actually language options. So not a lot of people know this, but there's 18% Spanish-speaking population in Connecticut alone.
Wow.
And that it's growing.
Right.
So it's not just Spanish speaking. There's a huge Haitian community too. So we want to be able. Matt just spilled his beer.
Oh, you had to tell. I'm cut off.
I had to because I'm still talking. So being able to navigate through the website is very beneficial for them. Not only that, but we do have Edwin in our office, and he is Spanish speaking. So he's able to take those customers and really walk them through and make them feel much more at home through the whole process.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Breaking through the language barrier is a big thing. Just personal story. I went to Australia. I was at customs where they question you about all kinds of stuff, and there was an Asian couple next to me that did not know the language, and they were having such a hard time. They couldn't say why they were there, and they have all these questions for you when you hit customs, and I just felt so bad, and I thought to myself, I don't want to be in another country where I don't know the language or have somebody there to translate it fluently. And,
Absolutely.
And working on a complex situation like buying a home,
Yeah.
you definitely would want that.
There are great tools out there now. I mean, it's 2024.
Right.
We have AI.
Yeah, that's true.
So you have you're able to translate things, but just being able to sit in front of a human that speaks your language, and you can get that sincerity.
Right.
So anyway, moving on from that. By the way, that sounded like the episode of Lost.
Oh, really?
So next we have right over here, you can go right online and hit apply online. That's going to take you right to our portal. So right here, you just fill in all of the questions right here. And that is going to build your portal where you can then hit that login button on the right-hand corner up there. And that's going to bring you to that same portal where you can also upload documentation. You can check on your loan status. We're obviously going to keep everyone abreast of everything going on with their loan anyway, but some people just like to log in and see. So it's been a neat thing to have. And as you're going, so after this page, you go into the application where there's really easy prompts, questions that we need in order to qualify someone and get them pre-approved and really understand a little bit better of what their financial situation is. Because, I mean, it's a sensitive subject, finances.
Yep.
Not everyone is forthcoming with information.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's okay. We're going to find out anyway. All of the questions in there are very easily prompted for everyone. And then if you are having trouble in that, we're actually able to see it in real time.
Oh,
So,
cool.
don't call it midnight. During the day, if you need help guided through, we can
Right.
do that for you. So
Yeah.
that's
Well, you said you're
That was-
available 8 to 8, right?
exactly.
24/7 over here. So
Yeah, Steve has answered his phone very late at night for me. I will say.
yeah. This morning I was in the office at 6 with an appointment. A builder.
Wow.
He's got 5 houses going, and he wanted to come in and sit down. And okay, what time you want me there? And it just
Yeah.
you got to make it happen for the people that you need to
Right.
get business from.
Which
Simple
I'm
as
sure
that.
they appreciate, though, very
Well,
much. you know.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
You know, if they're going to send us business,
Right,
I'll be there in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and you guys are very good at kind of like heading off the intense moments where basically you approach every client with more of an educational offering rather than anything else. And with that, as we get closer to closing, people it's not as intense because they know
Right.
what to expect. And when there is an issue, I often, like, as a realtor, I'll call you first, and usually if we have to go to the client with a problem, we usually have a solution already.
Right.
In that respect. So, yeah, I get the, people aren't as forthcoming with things and stuff like that too. So that's another thing I'd like to touch on. Like, as the realtor, I don't really need to know how much you make I don't need to know how much is in your bank account. I don't even need to really know your credit score. I just need to know, what you're comfortable being qualified for. And I say it like that because when my wife and I bought a house, we were qualified for way more than we would ever sign on for. And that happens a lot. And some people will see that top end number of how much they're qualified for, and they'll want to spend every penny of it. Where that qualification number doesn't always take into account how much you are paying on a weekly or monthly basis for all your other bills, like your food bills, and if you go to the movies, lifestyle. So that doesn't always take into account of that. And my wife and I had a conservative goal of, if one person can't work, the other one can pay the mortgage and the bills to keep things going.
Gee, that makes sense.
So, and I always encourage people to, be comfortable with their payment, or be comfortable with their overall, how much they're going to pay on a house, especially when they're walking through a house. Some will ask, how are we going to get this as far as the multiple offer situation? And I try to say, when you walk through the house, come up with a number. What is the house worth to you? So let's say, just pulling a number out, if the house is worth $320,000 to you, and someone buys it for $300,050, are you going to be upset? No, they overpaid. They can have it. That's the mark I want you to be at, where you're comfortable. And if you pay more than that, you're going to be mad at us, and I don't want that. I want you to pay what you're comfortable with, what you think the house is worth to you. Otherwise, we'll just walk out and find another house. It can be a lengthy process, but it's worth it because it's one of the largest investments you ever make, typically. And so, and just the whole privacy thing with finances, like, I don't really need to know, but you guys as lenders and me as a realtor, we all have licenses that have these ethical laws and confidentiality laws.
Right.
We would never say anything about anybody's finances. And I typically don't even know what's going on with my finances, so I'm not going to memorize yours.
Come on in, Matt. We'll get you set up straight.
My wife's an accountant, so I don't. She kind of takes the helm of it.
You do have the opposite end of that too. Kayla's specialty, the first-time home buyer people. A lot of times you give them a payment with the tax insurance and all that, and their first reaction is, "Oh my God!" Even though it may be well within their budget and not even at the top end of the debt ratios that we can go to, and you have to just have them sit down for a second and say, okay, now remember this, you're 2, 3, 4 years old, and you have a job for a year. Is this the most you're ever going to make?
Right.
And then they go, oh yeah, that's right. So, I mean, you can afford this. We don't, that's one of the little things that we put in all of our LO's heads is that don't push people to the edge.
Right.
They're not coming back, and we want them back.
Right.
So, if they're comfortable, they can easily make the payment, and they're a little bit nervous, okay, let's sit down and talk about it a little bit. And it's one thing Kayla's, because she likes the first-time home buyers, one thing she's really good at is putting people at ease, and that, to me, is as valuable as anything else.
Thank you. I try. Well, to that point, too, often I like to work with people that are about, 6 months, a year out sometimes. That happens. So what I like to do is put a plan together. What are your current payments? What are you doing right now? What's your goal?
Right.
Let's take that difference, and now let's put that in savings, and you're going to practice.
Right.
Not only are you going to practice, now you have extra money in your savings
to
go move into your house.
Nice.
So setting them up for success.
Yeah.
That's what I always try to pinpoint. We are looking for you to be in a mortgage that's successful.
Right.
Not just get you into a home.
It's amazing when you move money into different accounts, but you're only looking at your checking account. You forget completely about all the other money that you've put away, and helps a lot.
Yeah. It's the jar scenario.
Yep. The change jar. Yeah.
Put your money in different jars so you're saving, adequately for each of your goals, whether they're short term or long term. And it's a great situation, great business, model that you guys run over there at 412 Providence Road, Brooklyn, Connecticut.
Do you have more that you want to show?
No, I don't.
Oh.
Actually, that's it. I kept it nice and simple. We don't like to overwhelm or overstimulate.
Yeah. And we can put the
Yeah.
website.
I already did.
in
StevensLending.net. It's
Actually,
in the
I've got
comments.
right here.
Kyle's the man. So, you guys have anything for the future as to what you want to do, growing, or
We have a lot of things. A lot of irons in the fire right now.
Nice.
Beginning of last year, we had a few goals. We wanted to hire 2 more people. We wanted to go into different states. We did all those things.
How many states are you in?
We're 4
4
right
Which
now,
ones?
and it's going to be 5 this year. I'm adding Michigan.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, used to be one of our reps. Called me out of the blue from Michigan and said, "Look, I got out of that business there, but I've got a really good job now, but I have all kinds of people calling me and saying, hey, I want to refi. Where do you want to send me?" He says, "Well, why would I want to send them somewhere else? I can do it myself and make some money." I said, "Well, let's go." So we're going to handle that this year, but that'll be just for starters. I think our focus this year is going to be in Florida a little more.
Okay.
We have an address down there, and we work in concert with an office in Jacksonville area. So, we're going to try to make that happen. Edwin has a really maybe his best friend from when he was in the military. He's a Marine.
Nice.
And I always used to say he was an ex-Marine, but you get yelled at for that. So, but anyway, the guy owns all kinds of properties. He owns gyms. He's building a 4-family right now. He's all these different things. So we're going to start concentrating down in that area a little bit too. So he's in the Fort Myers area. So we're going to look at that. Our attorney is from the Fort Lauderdale area. So right now we got 3 out of the 4 corners of the state pretty well in target, and we're going to try to make a little bit more happen down there this year.
Nice.
Not exaggerating when I say they pop up roads down there every single time I go down there.
Oh, yeah.
Highway to
Oh.
a new town.
The development is absolutely
Yeah.
insane. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
I remember when I was a builder, I had clients that, they were snowbirds, so they'd be in Connecticut for the summer and down in Florida, and they would call me during the winter to do a project, and they're like, the building is unbelievable down here, and the amount that, lots were going for and stuff like that. Florida had to do a law saying you can't buy property without standing on it. So here in Connecticut and many other states, you can buy sight unseen, which is fine. It's just another couple of pieces of paper to sign, and you can buy a property sight unseen. But in Florida, they had a lot of con artists doing that and letting people buying swampland.
Yeah,
saying
the
it
old
was a build-
proverbial swampland in Florida. Yeah.
Yeah, saying that it was a buildable lot, and then these people have all this useless land that they paid quite a bit of money for. But yeah, he's like they do have a ton of building going on down there constantly. So that's wild. So it's Florida. What other states are you? Connecticut, Florida,
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
I'm personally licensed in Mass, and we have an affiliate in Mass that we run loans through,
Okay.
and very soon we're going to be Michigan also.
Nice. That's awesome. So as it goes, do you have any idea what you think the market will do throughout this year as far as
Well,
the housing industry?
I have my own ideas. Yeah.
Bring it.
Well, right now I think the Fed is going to come back with at least two regressions in the rate. So they're going to come back and lower the rates probably a quarter, 2 to 3 times this year.
Okay.
I don't think the rates are going to settle back anywhere near where they were. I think we're going to see probably a leveling off somewhere in the middle to upper 5s
Okay.
by the end of the year.
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes. As far as the rest of the market, if it comes back to the middle fives, I think your industry is going to see a lot more inventory.
Yeah.
People don't want to sell now because they've got a 3.5, and if they buy something, it's 7. So they're like, well, what, why would I do that? So they're just sitting on properties they normally wouldn't.
Right.
So I think it's going to add. I think by September, things are going to really open up.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a good spring. I know it is. I don't think that's going to be any issue. Florida's going to slow down, I think, a little bit.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff going on down there.
Yeah.
And I got some statistics the other day. It's like I forgot what it was, and the second half, or maybe it was a full year last year, 360,000 professionals left the state.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy because they don't have an income tax either. So to leave Florida, that'd be pretty bad.
Well, a lot of them were, teachers and the stuff where they're having issues now. So I take all these things and I look at them in totality. You have, like you said, you have the no income tax stuff, and you got all that, and they are building a lot still. But Florida is not going to be the destination it was. I think that you're going to see, the coasts in Georgia and South Carolina and things like that, where it's going to be less expensive, and I think that you're going to see a lot of people starting to head that direction.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty funny to see some of the waves, but even during the waves, like there was a North Carolina kind of boom for a while there, but I was moving people up from Texas, Arizona. I'm trying to think of where else. I had some tire kickers from California. They never connected, but they definitely moved out of California.
Yeah. Well, we had Todd in our office who does, a lot of our tech stuff and does a lot of our processing. He came from Arizona. They were in Tucson.
Oh, wow.
And they were there for, 10, 12 years, I guess. And, when they moved there, they loved it because, it was hot during the day, but it was 60 degrees at night.
Yeah.
And by the time they left, he said the reason we left is because it was still blazing hot during the day, but it was only getting down to the 80s at night. He said, so we were hot all the time. Right. And finally, we'd had enough. So they headed out of Tucson and moved back up here.
Wow.
So
that's a big move. Did he start in Connecticut?
I think they originally started in Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
He grew up right in the outskirts of Boston.
Yeah.
So, I'm not sure between then and the time he got to Arizona with his wife, but so he's originally a Massachusetts boy who ended up in Tucson. So if you've ever been in Tucson, it's like another world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there a couple of times. It's whew.
Just hot, like.
Well, my brother was stationed in Tucson.
Oh, okay.
And he retired from the Air Force there, and I went down for the ceremony and all that. And
nice.
At the time, I was a very competitive runner, and I didn't care. Heat didn't bother me. I was a tough guy, and I remember there was a cotton field near his house, and it was about 5 miles around. So I said, that's a good little run. So I took off at, I don't know, like 11:30 in the morning.
Oh, jeez.
And so I'm on the other end of the cotton field on a 100-degree day, and I got about halfway back, and I could see his house, and then I noticed that my skin and everything went completely dry and clammy.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, well, that's heat stroke, and I'm going to die. So, and along the cotton field were these, I don't know what they were, grooves they cut in the ground, and they would fill them with water, and they would go down each row. Well, there was still a bunch of water in one of them, so I just blunk. I sat in this big mud pit for about 5 minutes and finally ran back the rest of the way. But after that, it's like, oh man, no, this is not for me. I'm not a Tucson kind of guy.
That's a funny story, though.
It was funny and stupid.
Just jump in the mud to save my life.
Yeah, well, it's better that,
That works.
Yeah,
that's funny. I also want to give a shout out today to Connecticut's or Pomfret, Connecticut's Water Cure Farm. That's with the whiskey that we are drinking. It's a Connecticut barley bourbon whiskey from
Show the bottle. Nope.
Got it. And we're also drinking the peanut butter whoopie pie stout from Black Pond Brews. So, love to have either of those businesses on someday, but I throw them a plug because they just got great. Well, what did you think of the whiskey?
Oh my goodness, it's phenomenal.
Yeah. And you?
Yeah, it was great.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're right there about a quarter of a mile from my house, so it's perfect.
Yeah.
And Kyle's actually drinking the Bigelow Hollow oatmeal stout with vanilla from Taylor Brook Winery. Taylor Brook Winery is really close to my heart. Those are my cousins that run that place.
Ah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Shout out to Taylor Brook Winery for sure.
Black Pond is coming on
They
in
are.
March.
That's
Scheduled. March sometime.
Yeah.
So
I love to see all the collaborations going on among the breweries in this area too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
cool. With
Yep.
Bare Hands has Black Pond there right
Yeah.
now, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They did the party I wanted to get to too.
yeah,
It was
Prohibition.
The Prohibition party. Didn't get out there, but yeah, that's awesome. And
It is nice to see businesses that are essentially competing, but band together. And a lot of the breweries that I've talked to have said that it's like an incredible community. So
Yeah.
it's cool to see.
yeah, well, even we talked to Two Dogs Coffee,
Yeah.
and they talk to other coffee roasters all the time, and they go back and forth trying each other's product, and it just makes better products overall. And in the end, if you have really good products, there's really no competition because people are going to want to.
keep your head down, work hard. There's no competition ever anyway.
There you go.
That's true.
Well said. Well said. So, is there anything else you guys want to talk about as far as the lending world and mortgages?
Not really. I think maybe what I just want to do is give a shout out to the folks that we have in our offices, and
Sure.
and it's Todd Whittemore has been with us with me for probably 8 to 9 years now, and he's like the calm before the storm. He's always that calming influence. All the customers love him. The realtors love him because Todd is never in a bad mood. Never. It's amazing. And of course, we have Kaila on with us today, but we have Edwin, who was the Spanish-speaking gentleman who was a Marine and was formerly a Springfield, Massachusetts cop.
Wow.
Oh.
Okay.
And we have some new people. We have Sarah Whitehead, who is I think her husband Drew.
Drew. I
Yeah,
know Drew.
so she's with us now, and she's learning the trade, and she's coming along. She's gonna be great.
Yeah.
We have a processing team.
Yeah.
We have I think there are 5 members of the processing team that we send our loans to, and they gather the documents and whatever. So that was one of our other goals this year. We wanted to have a larger processing team than we did a production team.
Mm-hmm.
People are glad to have us because they can speak to us,
Right.
but they just want to get it done.
Yeah.
And too many times it's 2 days before the closing, things aren't done. Oh my God, people are running around going crazy. We don't do that. Our goal is to have you clear to close by the commitment date.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that way you can just sit back for a couple of weeks, gather your thoughts, and just move in.
Yeah.
And, we just hope everybody's like that. Doesn't always happen, but we try our best.
Yeah. I will say a lot of stuff. I'll always call you for the commitment date and when we can close, coordinate with you guys, make
Mhm.
sure that it's doable. And so often you're way ahead with as far as, the pre-qual. You guys do a real, investigation of people's finances so that
Mhm.
you know without a doubt that they're qualified for the products that we're getting them into.
Mhm.
And, it makes a big difference down the end. There aren't all these, this paperwork's not in, that paperwork's not in. It's not like that at there. And, you guys are very diligent how you work in your process.
We try, We're not 100%, but we're 99%.
No one's perfect, but I got to say, I haven't had anywhere near the problem. I've worked with other lenders, and some of them just don't have that diligence when they're going through the process. And you have people that shopping for a house that they're not necessarily qualified for, and that's scary. That hasn't happened in years for me, because now it was like my rookie year, but you have questions for lenders always. Are they qualified? Did you check this? Did you check that? Some of them will be like, "Why are you asking me this?" And I was like, "Well, because I've been burned before, and you gotta."
Sure.
That's why I try to find the best people I can refer, and so far you guys have held that standard without any question. So
we appreciate that.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing, I think, is the teamwork.
Right.
We are calling, texting each other
Constantly.
every day.
Yeah.
I mean, if I have a question, Steve's sitting right next to me. So I have a lot of questions, as I should.
Right.
And it's just so nice to have such a fostering environment
Right.
where
right.
we all want to see each other succeed, but we help each other get there.
Yep. Yeah. And on the realtor end, I will say, when I first got in, you get a lot of lenders, send me business. And I got to say, Steve wasn't really like that. It was funny because Steve would call and be like, "Hey, I put us on this website. We'll see what happens." I put your name on this thing. Let's see if you get any crank calls from it. But it was funny that, you guys are trying to drum up business as well as a realtor. You know what I mean? It's not like, there are some lenders out there that will attach themselves to high-performing realtors, and if that high-performing realtor wants to take a break, then you have no income. You know what I mean? It's or whatever. And it's nice to know that, we're a team trying to find success for everybody. And,
Hey, all agents are worthy of us.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it.
Well, everybody's out there. There's so many LOs that go out there, and that's the first thing they call up. "What do you got for me? Send me business. Send me." Well,
Yeah.
what have you done for me lately? That's the way I would feel if I was a realtor.
Right.
And you probably get how many of those calls a day?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Constantly. And the other thing is, well, we close them fast. Which is, I don't know, in their parlance, probably 30 to 45 days. We close them fast too. We close them in probably 14 to 20 days tops. But you know what? That's just doing our job.
Right.
What else can we offer you? I mean, we talk about that at meetings every week. We have to be able to offer you something else instead of just doing our job.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah.
and that's what you were talking about.
Always try to go above and beyond.
Well, you have to.
Yeah.
You got to be different than that same call you get every damn day of the week.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a blast. You guys are obviously always welcome here at the bench, and you're always welcome. And Kaila was saying that she's developing a new networking.
Oh, I thank you so much for bringing that up.
Oh, boy.
So yes, as I stated earlier, I am a natural networker. I was an event coordinator for quite a few years too, and then COVID. But again, that led me here, so whatever. And from that, I've developed this natural knack of bringing people together, but I've not really fit into any networking group that I've come across, and I've joined quite a few. Just the reciprocation of it all, especially. I mean, women in this area, we need a little boost. I'm not going to lie. Building each other up a little bit better. I did join a women's networking group that I'm still part of up in Sturbridge, but I just teamed with Danielle and Michelle over at Sparrow Soaps, and I'm proud to announce that we started a women's networking group. Our first meeting is going to be next month, February 12th. Yes, February 12th, at Leona's Bakery in Putnam. We are going to be meeting at 8:30 in the morning, and we're going to launch this terrific thing that we've kind of all collaborated on. We're looking for more collaboration too. We're looking for entrepreneurs, business-minded, positive females.
Nice.
So come join us.
Nice. I'm super excited for
to have
that, to see how that goes. So you can reach out to Kaila at 860-910-5878. and ask her about mortgages and networking.
That's it. Yep.
And you can always find Steve at 860-428-6329. You can always reach out to him for
Anytime.
And, of course, I'm always here as well. And you all know my number because that's what we open with. Thanks for watching, everyone. Join us on Monday, February 5th at 6 when we interview Friends of a CC Food Pantry. Get ready to donate. We have entered the lean months for donations, but people still need to eat. So I would like to correct things with our Spread the Love campaign. As we approach Valentine's Day, try to think about spreading the love to your local food bank and donate local. As always, buy local, hire local, dine local, volunteer local, and donate local. Thank you. Have great days.